Hello, my name is Ana Valeria, and for those interested in applying to the dual BA, this video is for you. This video is a continuation of a series of videos I have done about how they got into the dual BA, where we talk about academics, GPA, statistics, extracurriculars, what you wrote in your essay, maybe a little bit of the interview. On this video, we're featuring 4 students, which I'm so thankful I got to interview, of the British system, of the American system, of the Austrian IB system, and then of the French system. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please comment them below or send me a DM. I'll be super happy to reply to any of your questions, as I know the deadlines are coming soon. Also, if you want to maybe speak directly to the Columbia community or speak directly with any student ambassadors tackling admissions, you can download the app See Me. See Me is currently used by the Columbia communications team, and they frequently talk about international programs, admissions, and any questions dual BA applicants might have. So download that. Let me know if you have any questions on the comments or DM me on my Instagram, and hope this video is helpful to anybody out there. And good luck. Hi, Adam.
Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me about how you got into the dual BA admissions.
It's always a pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about you, Adam.
Okay, so I'm in my 3rd year of studies on the dual degree program. I grew up in London. I did all my education in London, but I always wanted to have like an international degree experience. My parents are French, so I thought it'd be the perfect program to be able to combine study in both France and the United States.
And tell me about your high school. Where did you go to high school? What type of high school was it?
Yeah, so I went to school in Reigate in the United Kingdom. It was just a normal state school, so like I wouldn't put that. I don't think that should put you off from applying. And what did I do? I did A levels. I studied maths. I studied languages. I studied computer science. But I always enjoyed the interdisciplinary nature, so I kind of wanted to get that at university, and you don't really get that in the UK. So that's why I think this program has been really good.
And can you tell me a little bit about your statistics, like what were the type of courses you were taking?
Yeah.
Maybe your average grade or however it works in the UK.
So in the UK, you take like as many A levels as you want. You can take 5. You can take, most people do between 3 and 5 A levels. So I did A levels in maths, Spanish, French, and computer science.
Oh wow!
And I think I got 2 A stars and 2 A's, which would probably be the equivalent of a 4.0 in the US.
What a brilliant guy!
Thank you.
Wow! And so what did you? Okay, so that's the statistics. So what did you do for extracurriculars? What did you do as a student? Yeah.
So I did MUN. I wasn't super involved. But I also did the youth council in my town, so I was very engaged in like local politics, and I knew that was something I wanted to get into more. So I think what ultimately helped me stand out is the fact that I did a gap year as well, and that's when I had lots of time to do plenty of activities that really boosted my application. I got to travel all around Europe, which I mentioned on my application. I went to Spain and I learned to speak Spanish fluently, which was also really helpful. And then I worked also for a British parliamentarian. So all of these things combined, I think, really helped boost the application.
And you did all of that in your gap year?
Yeah, I did all of that in my gap year.
And so you decided to apply to the dual BA during your gap year?
Exactly.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And so you believe that it was your gap year. And what else do you think made your application stood out to the admissions office?
I think I had pretty impressive stats in terms of the A levels themselves. But I think what really helped me stand out is that I was able to take the time, especially during my gap year, but also whilst I was in high school, to read as much as I could outside of my courses. And it gave me that kind of breadth that they're looking for. They're looking for people curious in the interdisciplinary study. So I think being able to read and talk about lots of different issues is one of the things that can really boost someone's application for this.
And by the way, now jumping a little bit about why the dual BA.
Yeah.
Do you remember a little bit what you talked in your essay, like why the dual BA essay question?
Yeah. For me, again, as I mentioned, I really love the fact that you, especially at Sciences Po, you study a bit of everything. You study history, you study economics, you study politics, and I think that's super important for becoming a leader of the future, becoming a leader in a world that's increasingly globalized. So that's one of the things I spoke about. And not only my motivations, but then I also spoke about why I like how my experiences shaped me to be a good candidate. So I spoke about the fact that I'm someone who's willing to go and get what I want. I'm willing to take those steps, and I gave examples as well by drawing on the things I'd done in my gap year.
That makes sense. I think I kind of wrote similar things, but to more opinion.
Yeah, I think I would just add to that. I think it's really important to curate a kind of story. That's what they're really looking for. They're looking for someone who knows where they're at, where they want to get to, and like how they're going to use the dual degree to get them there.
And if you remember anything at all about the interview, what do you remember about it? Like anything useful information, things you were shocked about?
I remember they told me that I would have to prepare a piece of news, like an article in the news, and be ready to talk about it. They actually didn't ask me that. So it was more relaxed. It was more relaxed than I thought it would be. It's more relaxed than perhaps a really academic interview like you'd have at Oxford or Cambridge. But I was asked to talk about books that I had enjoyed. They're looking for someone with a genuine curiosity and a genuine understanding. I think they can tell when someone's faking it as opposed to when it's genuine.
And if you remember, do you see any difference between the Columbia admissions person versus the Sciences Po admissions person?
The questions are pretty balanced on both sides. Like, I wouldn't say there's any major differences, but again, you have to be ready to talk about your application and be able to understand what your motivations are for doing that. One thing I'd add as well is they're looking that if you just want to go to Sciences Po or just want to go to Columbia, this probably isn't the right program. The special thing about this program is that they're combined and that you get to spend 2 years at both.
That's a very good tip. And anything you would change about your essay, admission process, just anything looking back into it?
I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, I actually didn't do that much research on Columbia as a school before I applied. Like, I looked into the dual degree specifically and really tailored my essay about the dual degree. But I could have mentioned a little bit more about the Columbia core, or like what makes Columbia its own place. I didn't even know that the core at Columbia is something that not all US universities share. So that's one thing I'd focus on. Try and do research on both.
That's super fair. And what is your favorite thing about the dual BA?
With the people I met.
And that's very fair. And do you recommend this program to incoming students?
Absolutely. I think there's a specific type of student for the dual degree. It's someone who's really curious about gaining a genuinely interdisciplinary understanding of lots of different subjects. I think if you're trying to specialize on just one thing, like there's other programs that do that better. And I'd also say it's a great program for people who want to improve, like gain a better sense of cultural understanding. I think that's one of the things that developed.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. This was super helpful.
You're welcome. Best of luck to everyone who's thinking about applying.
Hi, Paris.
Hi.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. How you got into the dual BA?
Of course.
So tell me a little bit about you. What year are you in? What's your major?
Yeah. So I'm a senior in the dual BA. I was in the Monton campus, and I'm a poli-sci major.
And tell me about your high school. Where do you go to high school? What type of high school was it?
Yeah, I went to Broadneck High School, which is in Annapolis, Maryland, which is where I grew up. It's a public high school, and yeah.
And so you went to an American high school?
Yeah, I grew up in the U.S.
So Paris, tell me a little bit about academics in your high school.
Yeah, so in my high school, there was like AP classes, there was honor level classes, and then standard classes. And my sophomore year, I started taking some AP classes, and I took all APs my junior and my senior year. And it was like classic, like chemistry, bio, history, etc.
How many AP classes do you think you took, like per semester or per year? I don't know how it works.
But. Yeah, my sophomore year, I took, which was the first year we were allowed to take them, I took 2. And then my junior year, I took all of them, so 5. And wow. With my senior year, also all of them.
Oh my God. Wow. That's intense. I only took like 1. But anyways, so Paris, let's talk a little bit about the extracurriculars as a student. But before that, your statistics.
Okay.
What was like your GPA like, if you don't mind sharing, when you applied?
I had a 4.0.
Oh, a stellar student. Okay, now extracurriculars. What did you do outside the classroom and your 4.0 GPA?
Okay, so in school, I was on varsity cross country. I was also my class president. And then outside of school, I did some things more oriented around like politics. So I interned for my state senator. I interned for some like environmental lobbyist groups, and I taught a chess club that I founded at some Title I schools in my county.
Oh my God. And did you do this like during the summer? Was it at the same time while you were in school? Like, how did those internships besides varsity, like besides the cross country club worked?
Yeah, they were all during the school year.
Oh,
So
wow.
like after school, the only one that was in the summer was when I interned for my state senator, which was the summer between my junior and senior year.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, Paris, you were such a busy high school student. um, so now talking about the Y dual BA,
Mhm.
like, first, why did you decide to apply to this program?
Yeah, well, I knew that I didn't want to spend all 4 years of my college in the US. Like that was something that I kind of knew like subconsciously. So like, I was when I was looking through colleges, I was already looking at their study abroad programs. I was like, okay, how am I going to like spend some time outside of the country for a bit? And I was like, honestly, it probably makes more sense for me to just like find a school like outside of the US to look into. So then I started looking for schools in the UK, and I had like stumbled upon Sciences Po, but then I realized they had a dual BA with Colombia. And I was like, that's perfect, because they also had a campus that specialized in the Middle East, which was Menton. And at that point, I was really interested in learning more about Middle Eastern policy. So it like was kind of a perfect moment in time where everything kind of lined up.
Well, no, I mean, that makes sense. It was kind of similar experience to me. And do you remember what you wrote in the essay, Why the Dual BA?
Yeah, I talked about how so I'm half Mexican, and so I talked about like having that part of my identity that wasn't just American that I wanted to kind of explore through a different school system in a different country, and like just not look at everything from such a US centric perspective. That was one thing. I also talked about wanting to learn more about Middle Eastern policy and like immigration. And I also talked about wanting to learn French because that was something that I definitely wanted to do and have pursued.
Est-ce que tu l'as appris or non?
Oui, je pense que j'ai amélioré.
You're almost there, Paris. And is there anything looking back into your essay and like your whole experience in the dual BA that maybe you will add to your why dual BA essay?
Mm-hmm. I think if I was going to go back and rewrite my why dual BA essay, I definitely talk about how in Monton specifically, I learned so much from my friends and from the people that were in that campus. And it was this tiny campus where there was people from all over the world. And yeah, my classes were cool, but like where I really like learned the most was at dinner conversations where there were people from all different countries, all different backgrounds, and like I was just able to, I don't know, like expand my point of view so much from that. And so I would say like that's one of the most valuable parts of the program.
I do agree. It is the people. And any useful information? I don't know if you remember the interview, maybe vaguely, but like any useful information you would give yourself to prepare for the Sciences Po Columbia interview.
Mm-hmm. I think I would just have a really good idea of why particularly you want to study the focus, like the regional focus of that campus. So like, what is it about the Middle East or about North America or like Latin America that really draws you in? Because at the end of the day, I think that's what's really cool about the campuses that Sciences Po has is that they're really focused on one region of the world. And so if you have something that draws you to that, I think just express that.
And do you remember like looking into global news to prepare for the Sciences Po part?
Oh yeah, no, that was something that actually was so important because I was following the news like about the general Middle Eastern region for like a month before my interview. I think that's something that's so important. Like if you have your interview, make sure you're up to date on like everything, like history. I mean, not like super intensely, but they definitely asked me like very specific questions. At least the ones the Sciences Po administrators definitely did.
Yeah. No, yeah, I remember mine. I was quite specific sometimes. And what is your favorite thing about the dual BA?
My favorite thing? I think it's that like the contrast between living in a tiny town in France for 2 years and then living in New York is insane because I mean, there's such completely different, like nothing to do with each other experiences that complement each other really well. And I also think that it makes everyone really independent. Like all of my friends that are here, I think they're so independent, and like living in a different country for the first 2 years of your university, it really like, I don't know, I think it really shapes you, and I think it's awesome.
So will you recommend this program to upcoming applicants?
Definitely. I definitely would. Like
Wow.
hands down.
Well, Paris, this was super helpful. Super glad you were able to do this, and I'm sure you will help a lot of people. So thank you, Paris.
Thank you.
Well, hi, Magdalena. So today we're going to ask you a little bit about how you got into the dual BA and all of this. Can you first tell me a little bit about you? Where do you grow up? Where do you go to high school? What's your major here at Columbia?
Perfect. So yeah, my name is Magdalena. I'm originally from Austria, from like a city called Graz. I went to high school in Austria all my life, and I'm now in the dual BA, was at Monton campus, and now as a junior, I'm majoring in financial econ at Columbia.
Oh, perfect. And so you mentioned you grew up in Austria. Tell me a little bit about your high school. Did you go to international school, IB, the Austrian school? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I went to an international school basically all my life, but it was a little bit of a special situation because I did both the IB, International Baccalaureate, and the Austrian Matura, which is like the standardized Austrian school leaving exam. So I have both diplomas, and it was like I had to do both at the same time.
Oh, wow. And how did that work? When it comes to like submitting academics to the Sciences Po dual BA program, like did you only submit IB? Did you submit both grades? Like how did that kind of system work?
So from what I remember, I submitted both grades. So I submitted my Austrian transcript, which were like following the Austrian system where 1 is the best and 5 is the worst. But I also submitted my predicted grades for the IB. And from what I gathered, the admissions team was a lot more focused on my IB score because that's something they understood more easily. But I also know people who applied with just like Austrian or German grades, so that's no problem either.
Oh, okay, perfect. And you mind sharing a little bit about what statistics you had as a student?
Sure. So the dual BA, from what I remember, asks for your last 4 years of high school. I had a 1.0 average every single year, so that's like that's the best average in the Austrian system. And and then on my final score and the IB was 42. And my predictions were a little bit weird because my school was quite new to the IB, so they weren't sure what to predict. They predicted me like basically 42 for the main subjects, and then TOK they just said it's 3. So technically they predicted me a 45, but that obviously was not very feasible. And I talked to an admissions officer, and they said, well, you can drop about 4 or 5 points below you predicted in any case. So for me that would have been a 40, and I would have been fine anyway.
Oh wow. Well, besides being an excellent student, what did you do as a student? What were your extracurriculars in your high school?
My extracurriculars were pretty like diverse. I always had a lot of different interests. So first of all, I did a lot of field hockey. That was just something I did for fun. I did Model European Parliament, which is like, you can imagine like Model United Nations, but really just for the European Union. And I did that for my last 2 years of high school. I was also vice president of the like international European one, and it was online because of COVID, but we brought together like 20 people from 28 countries to do like simulations. And then I was also part of like a regional economics forum, which is something I talked a little bit. And I think a main extracurricular that I talked about a lot in my application is an exchange year I did in Japan in 10th grade, which was like something I linked to the regional focus because I initially applied to Le Havre, and also something that I just talked about in terms of personal growth, wanting an international experience for my admissions essay.
Oh wow, you were a busy student, huh? And when it comes to kind of that student application, what do you think stood out from your application to the admissions team?
Well, I definitely can't say for sure, but something that I tried to focus on, as I said, is first of all my experience in Japan. I wrote an optional essay. I think you can still submit an optional essay, and I wrote it really just about my experience, like integrating in Japanese culture and seeing it both, like experiencing from the inside but also observing it from the outside. And then I also tried to link all my extracurriculars, everything I did, to kind of the program and how my experience in Japan made me want to study in an international environment, and how it made me curious to like experience different different things and also get a like more holistic social science education.
That makes sense. And if you remember anything about why the dual BA, is there anything else you remember of why did you decided to apply to that program? Like, what did you write in your essay and how did you approach that question?
So I haven't read my essays in a long time. I don't think I ever read it after I submitted it.
Fair.
But first of all, I definitely talked about the international experience. I think that's kind of on hand, like wanting to study in 2 countries. But also I talked a lot about how I like the idea of getting a more holistic social science education at Sciences Po. At Sciences Po, you take a lot of classes and you have a lot of liberty to try new things. And then at Columbia, the way I treated it was like, at Columbia, I want to specialize. I want to start at Sciences Po, going pretty broad with a lot of politics, econ courses, and then I want to specialize on taking financial econ at Columbia. And that's also what I pretty much did. But I changed my plan actually. Now I major in politics and government at Sciences Po. I think in my essay I was like, I'm going to take EcoSoc. Didn't happen. But I'm now still doing financial econ. So this like breadth of the program is something that I was interested in me from the beginning and still does.
That's so true. And if you remember anything about your interview or your interview preparation, any tips or little memories you have from it and you will say to future students?
Yes, I remember my interview a little bit. So one thing that I would definitely recommend is to know a lot about the region or like the campus you're applying to. I remember when I got my interview invitation, I was like, oh my God, now I'm going to have to do a lot of work because I knew a bit about Japan because I'd lived there and I'd also taken courses about Japan specifically and about the language. But I didn't know a lot about the rest of Asia, and applying to the campus, they do expect obviously a little bit of that. So I think doing research on that and really being familiar with the topics that you bring up in your admissions essay. I remember in my essay, I talked about how I was very interested in economic development specifically, like as a sub topic of economics in general. And that's something we talked about a little bit. In my interviewer asked me what I find interesting about economic development, what topics, how it relates to climate change, I think he asked. And then we talked about that. And I think having like a little bit, just some fun facts and something that passionates you about the topics you mentioned in your admissions essays probably really good.
I do agree. I remember mine was kind of similar. And now looking back into your admission process, is there anything you will say to yourself into this application process?
I mean, first of all, I'd probably tell myself to calm down a little bit and not be that stressed about it because I was quite intense. Overall, I think in terms of essay, looking back, I would probably let myself just be more relaxed about it, write really just like more authentically, because I was so focused on being so academic in my essay and making myself sound so formal, when in reality I think now I would probably have my personality shine through a little bit more, because I think in the dual BA they're really looking for people with a strong personality who have like passions and who are interested in the whole international thing. So I would probably let that shine through a little more. But on the other end, I got in, so I'm good.
That's fair. And what is your favorite thing about the dual BA?
My favorite thing, I think it's the fact that I got to do so much. I know so many of my friends, they basically started studies and then they weren't like really interested in that anymore, and they had to change their entire programs and everything. But here in the dual BA, that isn't the case. You can start out doing one thing at Sciences Po. In your first year, you have so many classes. Then you choose one of their 3 majors. And then at Columbia, you kind of start over entirely and you can do something completely new. And there's so many majors open to you. So the fact that I got to get such a wide education and try so many things and didn't have to settle on one thing, that's probably my favorite dual BA.
I do agree with that. And anything you will say to future applicants?
Well, I definitely encourage you to apply. I think what I would say is don't be scared, because it is definitely daunting to first move to France and then to the US. But I think it's amazing and you will have such a close-knit community. So what I would say to future applicants is definitely apply and just let your interest shine through. And they're really looking for characters. So just let whatever makes you special shine through in the application. You're going to be good.
Well, thank you so much. This is going to be super helpful, and I truly appreciate your time.
No worries, anytime.
Thank you. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Ana Valeria.
How are you doing?
Good. Nice to see you again.
Oh, nice to see you too. Thank you so much for agreeing to tell us more about how you got into the dual BA. Truly, truly appreciate it.
Yes, of course. My pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where do you grow up? Etc.
So I'm French from south of France, Marseille. And I grew up until I was about 8 in Paris, and then I moved to South France. Really, really enjoyed my life there growing up. And yeah, I had I guess, a basic French education, and then joined the dual BA, which was one of my dreams.
And wow, you live in the south of France, pretty nice area.
Yes.
Away from the cold. So
Sure.
you was talking about the French system. So you went to a French school.
Exactly.
So can you tell me more about like where, I guess it was Marseille, like what type of school it was, and did you do like the usual French track, or did you do something additional to that?
Yeah. So it was a good school. It was like a private Catholic school, but wasn't really turned to the international. Like usually Parisian schools, I would say, are more towards like applying to the UK or the United States, Canada. It was quite new in my school, so I had to do a lot of research on my own. But I had the best experiences, and my teachers were very supportive, so that helped a lot.
And when it comes to like the type of education thing you were taking, for example, in the American high school, you have this thing called the AP system, and that's like even more advanced courses.
Yes.
Did something similar was like in your class, like in your school, or no?
So in the French system, it does not exist. So all of my classes were in French. I had the French curriculum, and you do not have different levels, but like it's still considered like higher level in the sense that I did transfer 18 credits from my French baccalaureate to Columbia. So I guess you have mandatory AP-ish courses.
Okay.
But it's everyone on the same ground. Same level.
Perfect. Sounds good. And if you don't mind talking more about your statistics as a student when applying, like kind of your GPA grades. I don't know what things are in the French system, but yes.
So in the French system, it's graded out of 20. So I had about like 18.5 out of 20. So I guess like about like straight A's for the American system. But I do like usually emphasis on the fact that grades don't really matter, rather your rank in your class, because like depends on how your teacher's grade. I know I had friends that had like 18 out of 20 as an average, but they were like at the top of the class, whereas I had 18.5, but like I was in the top 3 in my class in general. So your grades shouldn't stress you out that much, but try and really stand out, especially in your specialties, in your majors, at least like your subjects of interest that you want to major in at university.
Okay, and did you do, I know the French has like 2 systems, like more scientific.
Yes.
Which one did you do?
So we used to have 3 systems, like one in like science, the other one in economics, and the other one is literature. But it stopped with my year. We had like a reform. So it's mostly like you pick majors, and I chose geopolitics, economics, and math.
Perfect. And besides school, what were your extracurriculars? What did you do as a student besides school?
So, I mean, kind of like related to school as well. I was president of the MUN club.
Okay.
So it was only open in like 11th and 12th grade. So I was a delegate in 11th grade, and I organized in 12th grade. And I also like founded a UNICEF club promoting children's rights. And my high school was like from 1st grade to 12th grade. So we really wanted to include all the students of the school. So we had students from like 6th grade to 12th grade, one per promotion. and we did kind of like teams of 2 that was very nice and organized
super
events.
nice.
Yes. All
Wow,
right.
you were busy. You were busy.
Yes.
And when it came to your student application, what do you think kind of stood out to the admissions committee at the dual BA, both Sciences Po and
Yes.
Columbia?
I think specifically to dual BA, since it's a partnership between France and the United States, it's important to them to see your interest in both cultures and countries. And I was very lucky to spend most of my summers as a kid in the US because I have families that part of my family there, so I would do like American summer camps. Which is also why I really wanted to try and have the American experience and education. But one piece of advice, I guess, would like usually when you start your application, you kind of like diminish yourself. Like I don't know what stands out. I'm like a very average person, and in reality, like everyone's unique. So like don't hesitate to just like brainstorm, even like ask your friends, ask your family members, your teachers what they think stand out in who you are, your personality, your background, and I'm sure like you'll find a way to share that with the recruiters.
And talking about sharing with the recruiters, if you remember, how did you approach the why dual BA question?
Yes, that's a very difficult question because it needs like a lot of, I guess, self-introspection. Like you need to know a little bit more what you want, which is very difficult at such a young age. I think the first thing for me was the international aspect of it. I've always loved traveling and discovering new cultures. So having this opportunity to first of all study so many different things because Sciences Po's curricular is famous for that. Like first year you study economics, history, political science, philosophy, and then you can have electives like I know I took film studies. It's so broad and that's quite rare in France. So that's really a key aspect that I wanted. And also Columbia, the expertise of the teachers. We have incredible experts. So was a
and
top of the list for me.
Did you try to connect your own personal story into how you fitted in the dual BA, or did you mostly talk about why the dual BA like was cool?
I think you need to do a bit of both. Like the advice that I receive is like it's kind of like a triangle. You need to always like connect the dots between who you are, what you want to become, or what you like to do, and relate it back to both universities. One question I had during my interview is like, why do you want to come to Columbia and not just New York? Because I think some people like, or even like, I think the same for Sciences Po, like, why do you want to go to Sciences Po specifically, not just to France? Like, the environment is key, but also the institution itself, its values, its teachers, its student body, that's also essential. So if you can try and talk to like a few students and get a gist of the atmosphere, I think that's really important.
No, I totally agree with you. And looking back, I mean, you got into the dual BA, but looking back, and if you could give yourself a tip when you were applying and writing that essay, is there anything you would change about your essay?
I was very clueless when I wrote my essay. Like, there's no crash course on like how to write the perfect motivation letter, especially coming from the French system where they weren't super familiar with applying abroad. So I think something that really helped me is reaching out to former students to ask them to see their own letters and see a bit like comparing different letters. The idea letters are super personal, so it's not. Don't try and like copy the vibe, the history or the storytelling of someone else. But I think it's important to see the implicit codes that exist and that no one tells you. Like there's a specific vocabulary to use. Like it's not casual. You're trying to impress recruiters, so you need to be quite academic and professional. It's always nice, like site sources, different book you've been reading, different studies that inspire you. And that's not something that you necessarily know going into this process. So I would say, yeah, like if you can reach out to other students and also be open to feedback on your own letter, that's really nice.
Oh, that's super great tips. So now moving into kind of the interview, which I am amazed that you remember a little about. Are there any tips? How did you prepare for it? And how did it go for you?
Yes, so the interview is about 30 minutes long, and you have one recruiter from Sciences Po, had a former principal of the Sciences Po Reims campus, Sylvain Turpin, was playing a bit of like the backup. And that was a very nice lady from Colombia, and both ask different questions. I think it's nice to train a lot with your teachers and your friends, even your parents, because there are like expected questions that you can practice for, such as what's your professional project, present who you are. Usually, first question is just for you to tell a bit more about yourself in 2 minutes. So that's something you really need to practice for. And then obviously like questions about the curriculum of both institutions, what classes are you looking forward to. Specific teachers are also very nice to know. They're very prestigious institutions, and therefore they have leading experts in many different classes. So if you've read one of their books, that's super relevant to mention. In other words, otherwise, for specifically for Sciences Po, it's important to keep aware of current events because it's a political science.
That's super true.
Yeah, it's because it's a political science school. Knowing a bit about French politics, but also American politics, the current events, anything major that's happening, because they're likely going to ask you questions that you don't know the answers to. But the idea is just to bounce back on that. Like, oh, I don't really know what's happening right now. I don't know, in the Sahel region and French implication in the war against terrorism. But I know what's happening, I don't know, in Latin America, in this specific country right now. So if you don't know the answer of a question, it's completely normal. You cannot know everything, but it's nice to still try and inform yourself about different things so that you can draw links in a different way.
Oh, and that's a super good tip. And you mentioned so many questions that I remember having. And now looking back, so you're a junior doing economics here at Columbia. Looking back into your years in France and now here at Columbia, what's your favorite thing about the dual BA?
My top favorite things is just the people that are in it. We were just talking about it together yesterday, but it really creates a unique community, both at Sciences Po and at Columbia, because they're the first people you talk to. Usually when you're admitted, you reach out to your fellow classmate and hearing about, I know, different experiences, and we all come from all over the world, is such a unique and amazing experience. And then especially when you arrive at Columbia, it's such a big campus with so many students that having this small close-knit community is key and super important to, I know, our well-being and how many strong friendship you make.
That's so true. And will you recommend this program to incoming students? And what would be your kind of biggest tip to them?
Yes, I would recommend it to anyone. Honestly, like it was the best decision for me, and I'm really glad of my college experience. Nonetheless, I think it's very like subjective to like your personality and who you are. You still need to be aware of the fact that you're gonna leave abroad, and that's a very important decision when you're so young. Like me, I stayed the first 2 years in France, so the transition was a lot smoother than you, for instance, like as being an international student coming to France, another continent from the US at such a young age. So I think you really need to reflect a lot on your decision before doing the dual BA. But for me, I couldn't have dreamed a better college experience.
I agree. Well, thank you so much. This was super, super helpful. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Yes. Bye.